Hello. I know we're late. Good morning. Sorry. Yesterday was 4th of July. Obviously, we were all out late. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. We've decided that this is my Chucky voice from Rugrats. This is how we talk. Good morning, everybody. He talks like he's got a stuffy nose all the time. Tommy, I don't know if that's a good idea. You have meetings at 1. Whoa. Thank you for the little heart on my head. Good morning, everybody. Sounds right. Yeah, right? It does sound like Chucky. Sounds like Chucky. Hello. Chucky is a relatable character. I agree. Good morning, Amanda. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. Thank you so much for Evermore. Thank you for the little heart on the head. Hey, I'm back. I'm the girl that said you look like Anne Hathaway. I wish I looked like Anne Hathaway. Man, oh man. Hey, Liz. I'm an elephant. That one's pretty funny, actually. The elephant's pretty funny. I related to Eeyore as a kid, so that's sad. Eeyore was my character too, Becca. I had a whole collection of Eeyore stuff. Yeah. So, let's read chapter 21, which is The Sea Witch. The Sea Witch. Eeyore was yours too? Are we a collection of Eeyores? You guys, are we all Eeyore? That might not be good. Too many Eeyores is a sad party. Is everybody here Eeyore? You were Eeyore too? Uh-oh. Oh no. Are we all Eeyore? Oh boy. Is anyone any other character? Anybody? What Winnie the Pooh character did you relate to as a kid? What? You loved Tigger as a kid? Oh, I had a Pooh Bear stage at 12, but I loved Roo. Okay, that's good. As an adult, you're Eeyore. Okay. As a kid, I was Eeyore. As an adult, Pooh and Tigger. Okay, we have some others in here. That's why we're snarky and funny. Trauma. Yes, trauma is real. Guys, look how far we're into this book. My mom had a Winnie the Pooh and Piglet Halloween costume, and my sister and I were babies. That's amazing. I love that. I have a friend who has twins, and she when they were born, their newborn photo shoot, they were Pooh and Piglet. It was very cute. Very, very cute. They're really cute babies, and it was real cute. Yeah, very cute. Okay, so let's read chapter 21, which is The Sea Witch. The others were thrilled by the twins' triumphant return from the castle ruins. Well done, Froggy said, and patted them on the back with a relieved smile. We knew you could do it, Goldilocks said and winked at them. Red took the wand from Connor, and she was mesmerized by it. It's so shiny, she said, although the twins weren't positive she was impressed by the accomplishment, so much as the fact that they had returned with something else she could view herself in. Was everything all right in there? Jack asked them. The twins looked to each other, and they both fell silent. Hey, Stephanie. Well, not exactly, Connor said. We saw the evil queen. She's been trapped in the magic mirror ever since she used the wishing spell, Alex said. Everyone was just as shocked as the twins had been to discover this. Oh, how horrible, Goldilocks said quietly to herself. Well, there's no hope of getting her out now, I suppose. Hey, Anya, Jack said. Connor shook his head. No, she doesn't want to be rescued. She thinks she deserves to be in there. There's not really much left of her to save anyway. Hey, I miss you all. I have no idea what's happening in this book, so I'm going. But all the stuff is up on the YT, Tressa, if you need to catch up. It's all up to date over there. How's the temperature blanket? Am I supposed to know what that means? Well, also, Tressa, we're this much from being done. You could start with the next book if you want. I didn't get... Oh, Stephanie's making a temperature blanket. I actually would like to make a temperature blanket. Maybe I will start one at the next new year. Yeah, it was a question for Stephanie. Yeah, you'll start with the next. That makes sense, Tressa. Maybe I'll make a temperature blanket next year. Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking as one of the victims she kidnapped and almost fed to wolves, I'm not really sure I feel sorry for her, Red confessed. Well, there's more bad news, Alex said. We asked her about the enchantress because she probably knew better than anyone. Well, what did she say? Froggy asked, and they all leaned in closer to hear the answer. She said Esmia's most prized possession is herself, Alex said. Jack, Goldilocks, and Froggy looked to one another with the same exasperated expression. That doesn't make any sense, Froggy said. How can living things make up the wand? I understand how the harp could be considered a prized item, but not the enchantress herself. Red scrunched her lips and hummed, thinking on the subject. I think the Evil Queen is mistaken. I'm not a stranger to loving myself, but that self-admiration comes from something. For example, if you took away my beauty or my incredible ability to match dresses with tiaras, I wouldn't value myself as much as I do now. The others weren't sure how to gauge that outburst. Red was always very coherent or not at all. There was rarely an in-between. What are you trying to say, Red? Goldilocks asked. I'm saying it's not the actual woman we should be concerned about getting, Red explained. We need to find what the enchantress values most about herself and take that away from her. Everyone thought about it, and their heads slowly moved in a mutual nod. This was the first moment any of them were actually happy that Red had demanded to come on the trip. That is so insightful, Red, Connor said. Shallow, but insightful. No, he's currently making coffee, not a smoothie. Oh, the rest of my smoothie is in the fridge, so you only have to make one for yourself.
Oh, I threw it out because it was all...
Sad. Wasted. I would have drank it.
I know you would have. It was gross. I looked at it.
Well, then make me a half one.
What?
Make me a half one so I don't waste so much.
I'm going to make some, yeah.
Yeah. I figured you were, but I'm just saying make less so I don't waste so much.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make extra.
You drink neither coffee nor smoothies? Really? No coffee, no smoothie? Huh. That's so insightful, Connor said. Shallow, but insightful. Well, how do we retrieve it for the wand? Jack asked. No one could come up with an immediate answer. What was the one quality Esmea prized above the rest? There were so many things that she obviously cherished. Her beauty, her power, her ruthlessness, or perhaps it was a combination of all three. And whatever it was, how would they take it away from her? Well, we all knew that this was going to be a challenge, Goldilocks said and let out a long sigh. The six headed over to the moat and back to the granny. They returned to the furious harp whose strings played an angry chord as she pouted. Harper, what's the matter? Jack asked her. That thing peed on me, Harper exclaimed and pointed at Claudius, who was crouching shamefaced in the corner of the lower deck. That's my fault. I forgot to take him out before we left, Red said. My apologies, mother in training. She scooped him up and carried him off the ship. The crew waited until nightfall before firing up the ship and steering south. Next stop, Mermaid Bay, Jack called out. Does the sea witch live in the bay? Connor asked. Well, from what I read, she lives in the ocean waters just outside of it, Froggy said. How do we find her? Goldilocks asked. I'm a good swimmer, believe it or not, Froggy said. I can have a look around the ocean floor and report back to you. We'll have to be very careful once we get there. The sea witch is known for being very sneaky with her trades. We'll have to outsmart her then, Alex said. If her jewels are her most prized possession, then we'll have to trade her something in exchange for them. Well, what's the most valuable item we have in our possession? Connor asked. What do we have that we could trade with her? The harp? Red asked hopefully. No, we need to keep her until we can figure out how to incorporate her into the wand, Jack said. Goldilocks' face suddenly lit up as if an actual light bulb had appeared over her head. I think we're all forgetting something in our possession that's even more valuable, she said. What's that? Alex asked, and they all stared at her completely puzzled. Red, Goldilocks said. We have an actual queen on our ship. Everyone immediately turned to look at Red. As expected, the young queen was appalled by the idea. You want to trade me to the sea witch like some farm animal? Red said. Absolutely not. Out of the question. Well, that is a good option, Jack said, defending Goldilocks' idea. Red grunted and her nostrils flared. Now, you listen to me, giant chaser, she said. Thank you so much. And pointed her fingers at all of them. So far, I've built us a ship, lost half of my wardrobe, adopted a killer animal, snuck into the wicked stepmother's estate, and supplied something nice to look at during this escape. If you ask me, I've gone above and beyond what a normal queen would do. Do you see Cinderella flying a mile above the ground? No. Is Snow White risking her life for the greater good? No. Is Rapunzel braiding her hair to restore peace and harmony? No. Everyone slumped. They couldn't argue, but they also didn't have much to work with. Well, I'll do it then, Goldilocks said. What? Jack gasped. I'll pretend to be Red, Goldilocks said plainly. You can trade me for the jewels and the sea witch will never be the wiser. I will most certainly not do that, Jack protested, outraged by just the suggestion of it. It's the best way, Goldilocks said. After you collect the jewels, you'll only have one more thing to complete the wand. Once you defeat the enchantress, you can come back for me, and until then, I'll keep my cover and make the sea witch happy. Jack held her. Oh, Jack was shaking his head. He couldn't imagine leaving the woman he loved most in the world in the hands of someone so horrible. Oh, Jack, Goldilocks said, flattered by how worked up he had become. You know I'll be able to handle a little old sea witch. I've been in way worse situations before. Jack held her close and looked deeply into her eyes. What if for some odd reason we can't come back for you? He said. Goldilocks looked down at the floor, knowing what he meant. Well, if I get anxious, I'll find a way out, she said, returning his loving gaze. You just have to trust me. Man, you should read it this time every day. My son and the two boys I watch are so into it. It's nap time. Yay! Putting the kids to sleep. That's the goal. It's an incredible sacrifice to make, but no one could persuade her otherwise. Red, I never thought I would ever say this, but I'm going to need to borrow a dress, Goldilocks said. I doubt anything of mine will fit you, Red said. Froggy cleared his throat. Darling, don't be rude, he said. That is, I'm sure we can make something work, Red said and gave in. She grabbed Goldilocks' hand and dragged her down the lower deck to play dress-up. Jack went to the steering wheel and looked ahead of them to the horizon, but his thoughts were anywhere but with the ship. Froggy played tug-of-war with Claudius, while Alex and Connor sat on the deck near the bow of the Granny. Alex rested her head on her hand and stared off into space, having her own reservations about their plan. What's on your mind? Connor asked Alex. You look troubled. Alex sighed. Just a little concerning to think about leaving Goldilocks with the sea witch, she said. I know, but what else can we do? It was a great idea, Connor said. I guess, Alex said. Something had been on her mind, and she felt like it was time to tell her brother before her head exploded. Connor, when we were back in the northern mountains, the Snow Queen said something to me, and I didn't think much of it then, but it's really starting to worry me now. What did she tell you? Connor asked. She said, Of the 4 travelers, one will not return, Alex said. I thought it was just nonsense. I mean, an avalanche had just fallen on the woman, but now I wonder if she was making a prophecy, and I wonder if she was talking about Goldilocks. But there's 6 of us traveling, Connor said. 7 including the mutt and 8 including the harp. I know, it doesn't make sense, Alex said and rubbed her tired eyes, but I'm still worried that there may have been some truth to it. We've been really lucky so far, but what if one of us doesn't survive this trip? Connor surprised her with his reaction. He didn't reciprocate her fear, but met with calmness that reminded her of their dad. Alex, we all knew what we were getting into, he said. Just because you and I are spearheading this mission doesn't mean it's our fault if anything goes wrong. We are all trying to save the world, and as awful as it sounds, if one of us doesn't make it through the process, well, I can't think of a better way to die than being a hero. She let a long, exasperated breath escape her lungs. There are worse fates, I suppose, Alex said. I'd hate to lose someone for no reason, though. I don't know if I could live with myself. Well, we'll just have to make sure we succeed then, Connor said. Within the hour, Red climbed up from the lower deck with a proud smile on her face. Ahem, she said, getting all of their attention. Lady, wolf, gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to my latest creation. She may be a rough porridge-eating fugitive by day, but tonight I would like to introduce you to the new and improved Goldilocks. Goldilocks walked up the steps behind her. She was wearing one of Red's corsets with a long red gown, a hooded cape, and matching gloves. Red had even put her hair up in a stylish do similar to her own and painted some rouge on her cheeks. There was no doubt about it. Goldilocks looked stunning. Goldie, Jack said, you look gorgeous. He looked like a teenager in love. Thank you, Goldilocks said and blushed. She didn't get too many opportunities to look so pretty for him. You're welcome, Red said and swayed happily. The corset's a little small for her, poor thing. Her waist isn't quite as slender as mine. My God, Red, she's so awful. Yeah, that's because I'm hiding 3 daggers under here, Goldilocks said. She had trouble balancing in a pair of Red's high heels. I don't know how you walk in these shoes. They're completely impractical. I don't know how you walk in them either. They're meant for feet almost half the size of yours. I'm only teasing, Goldie. Put that knife away, Red said and ran to the other side of the ship. The harp grew bored below them and began to play a soft melody for herself that could be heard on the upper deck. Jack grabbed Goldilocks' waist. Care to dance? He asked. Oh, Jack, Goldilocks laughed. Come on. When's the last time we got to dance? Jack asked. The last time, I believe, involved a witch throwing hot stones at our feet, she said. Jack chuckled at the memory and spun her around. They danced to the harp's tune under the starry night sky, gazing into each other's eyes. Would you do me the honor? Froggy asked Red, and offered her his hand with an overly pronounced bow. Oh, I'd be delighted, Red said. They didn't quite dance as smoothly as Jack and Goldilocks. Red kept stepping on Froggy's large webbed feet, but both couples enjoyed the time for all it was worth. The twins smiled as they looked on, knowing this would be something that they'd remember forever. Actually, I did an entire restock that's Candyland themed. Yeah, I've done that. It was a few minutes before dawn, and the granny was still a ways away from Mermaid Bay. We're not going to make it to the bay before sunrise, Jack said from behind his steering wheel. We need to put the ship down before we're caught. We can travel the west of the way by water, Goldilocks said. We'll land it in the Sleepy River and then sail down the river in the bay. That's brilliant, Froggy said. Very well, Jack said. Everyone prepare the ship for a water landing. Goldilocks took over the steering wheel. Froggy grabbed hold of the sails, ropes, and flattened them to the sides of the balloon. Jack pulled the lever under the ship's flames, and it diminished. The granny began to descend, and Goldilocks aligned the ship with the wide river flowing on the ground below. The twins weren't sure what to expect. Would a water landing be rougher or easier? In a few moments they had their answer. The ship dove into the water, coming to a painfully abrupt stop and nearly submerging itself completely on impact. The entire deck and its crew were drenched. Connor spat out a mouthful of water. Thank goodness that was easy, he said sarcastically. I'm on my side and I can't get up, the harp called from the lower deck. This wolf is licking my face. Can someone please help me before he gets any other ideas? Yeah, just email me, Dragon, and, you can purchase a custom slime in the next restock, and then we can talk about it after. But yes, we can definitely do jelly and gummy charms. That's no problem. Froggy hopped down the steps to assist her. Red wrung her wet dress over the side of the ship. She was not enjoying life at that moment. The ship sailed peacefully down the river as the sun rose further into the sky. Not long after, Mermaid Bay came into view ahead. The ship was just about to spill into the bay from the river when it came... Oh, yeah. Time for an interpretive dance. No worries. Oh, great, Connor grunted. Now what? Just as the others were about to panic, something very colorful caught Alex's eye. Look, she said excitedly and pointed down at the water. The thing swam under the ship and disappeared from sight. Where did it go? Jack asked. Alex, Connor, Jack, Froggy yelled from the back of the ship. Take a look at this. They joined him at the back of the ship and gazed at the river below. It was difficult to make out what was happening through the ripples of water, but Alex and Connor recognized it right away. Dozens of mermaids had gathered behind the Granny Orange, slowly pushing the ship through the delta. They had pale skin and long, colorful tails that matched their long, beautiful hair, just as the twins had remembered. The ship began to move through the channel little by little, thanks to the mermaids' efforts. Well, I'll be darned, Froggy said, amazed at what he was witnessing. The granny edged forward bit by bit, finally squeezing through the channel and splashing into the bay. That was so kind of them, Alex said. Why were they helping us? Connor asked. Goldilocks whistled from behind the steering wheel. Speaking of mysteries, what's that? She nodded at something ahead of them. In the distance, hovering majestically in the misty bay air was a large cluster of sea foam. Uh-oh, we all know what this is. It was shaped in the silhouette of a mermaid and shimmered in the sunlight, continuously rejuvenating itself. Alex grabbed Connor's arm. It's the sea foam spirit, she said. Come again? Froggy asked. It's the little mermaid, Connor explained to the others, or, well, at least it used to be. I wonder what she's doing here. You think she knows that we're going to visit the sea witch? Alex asked. The granny sailed closer to the foam until it hovered directly in front of the ship. Hello, Alex. Hello, Connor, the sea foam spirit said. The others were shocked to hear her speak. Red rubbed her eyes. She didn't believe what she was seeing. I'm sorry, is this clump of bubbles your friend? She asked the twins, as if she was making a judgment against their character. What are you doing here? Alex asked the sea foam spirit. I've come to speak with you, the sea foam spirit said. You're trying to stop us from going to visit the sea witch, aren't you? Connor said. No, on the contrary, I've come to assist you, the spirit said. I may be the world's greatest cautionary tale when it comes to matters of the Sea Witch, but I've come to offer you help. I've heard about your quest. Well, we all have. The spirit gestured to the water below where the mermaids had gathered, and the bay looked like a colorful koi pond. Who told you about our quest? Alex asked. No one. Yeah, go ahead. No, you're fine. One more dance. Amazing. I could only hear thoughts and that are expressed in or near. Wait, hold on. Sorry. No one told me. I heard your thoughts, the sea foam spirit said. I thought you could only hear and feel thoughts expressed in or near the water, Connor said, remembering what he had learned from their last encounter. Yeah, as the snow melts down and pours into the river that leads into the sea, it brings with it the thoughts of those who have traveled across it. Connor hooted. Wow, so much for privacy. Well, how can you help us? Alex asked the spirit. Can you take us to the Sea Witch? No, I cannot leave the bay, the spirit said. But I have asked an old friend to escort you to the depths of the sea where the Sea Witch dwells. That would be terrific. Thanks, Connor said. Who's your friend? Are they solid at least? Is that a new sweatshirt from the Globe? This is a new sweatshirt from the Globe. It is. Isn't it wonderful? I love it. Well, very, the sea foam spirit said. Suddenly, a gigantic splash erupted from the bay, and the sea turtle of epic proportions emerged from the water. He was as big as their ship. The entire crew was flabbergasted as their eyes grew to the size of tennis balls. Connor leaned close to Froggy. I never thought I'd see a reptile as big as you, he whispered. The great sea turtle is very old, the sea foam spirit said. He can't hear very well, but he will escort you to the Sea Witch. Yeah, Shelley, you have to get some stuff there. They had such great merch at the Globe. It was so hard for us to narrow down what to buy. It was really difficult. I would have got so many more things if, they were so good. Yeah. How are we supposed to breathe? Goldilocks asked. The seafoam spirit extended both of her hands, and 6 white scallop shells appeared. They each had a seaweed band around them. They were like a gigantic oceanic surgical mask. Oh, you're fine. Thank you for that. The seafoam spirit passed them to the men and women aboard the ship. These will supply you with air while you're under the water, she said. Did they come in pink? Red asked. Froggy passed on his shell. Thanks, I'll be fine, he said. Being a frog has its perks, you know. He took a very deep breath, and his throat expanded into a large bubble. Awesome! Connor chuckled and poked at it. The seafoam spirit nodded to the great turtle. It's time, she instructed. I have to figure out how to pack just to carry on. Yeah, seriously. We kind of had that, actually, and it was so great. So great. Yummy. The turtle drifted towards the ship and placed his front flipper gently on the bow like a drawbridge. Jack and Froggy armed themselves with daggers and rope and then led the others over the turtle's flipper and onto his shell. They gathered at the front of the shell and held tightly onto the edge. Good luck. May all the spirits of the sea be with you, the seafoam spirit said, and then she disappeared. The turtle drifted away from the granny and gradually sank into the water. The water was colder than expected, and they gave small yelps. You got this, Shelley. Hey, Bea, I didn't see you come in. Hello, hello. It was very strange to breathe from the shells. They inhaled normally, but a trail of tiny bubbles fluttered above them every time they totally exhaled. It was like they were magically scuba diving, and just like with the regular scuba diving, there was plenty to see. The entire bay floor was covered in bright coral and plants. Mermaids and fish of all colors and sizes swam through it like a vast underwater city. Their bodies were shimmering in the ripple of sunlight from above. It was a beautiful sight, and the twins made sure to seize every moment of it. Soon, they left the bay, and the great sea turtle traveled deeper into the endless ocean ahead. The ocean floor wasn't nearly as colorful as the bottom of the bay. It was very bare, with nothing but rocks and seaweed to spread across it. An enormous underwater canyon was ahead of them, and the turtle dived down into it. It had jagged edges and sharp rocks along its sides, and the canyon floor was littered with ghostly empty shells. It was like an underwater graveyard. They knew they were close. It's true. You really do drive so much, Brandon. The turtle swam through the canyon, and the twins saw a wide entrance to an underwater cave ahead. The cave was surrounded with small glowing lights, inviting and decorative. However, as they got closer, the twins realized the lights were glowing antennae of a school of anglerfish surrounding the entrance to the cave. They were terrifying with their sharp, toothy overbites, and the spikes down their spines were like that of a sea monster. The anglerfish glared at them as the turtle passed into the cave. To their discomfort, the inside of the cave was filled with even more scary-looking fish. They peered out from behind the stalagmites and stalactites. Their antennae gave off only light in the whole cave. Imprisoned behind nets and rock cages through the cave were other sea creatures. Swordfish, seahorses, octopi, manatees, and whales all looked somberly at the passing turtle, hoping that it wouldn't suffer the same fate. The anglerfish watched over the creatures like a prison guard. The turtle arrived at the entrance of the long tunnel, and as if the twins hadn't seen enough nightmares to give them nightmares for years after, the tunnel was being watched over by a group of great white sharks. They lingered eerily in the water, staring sinisterly at the turtle and his passengers. The sea turtle moaned at the sharks. Nothing happened. The turtle moaned again, and the sharks slowly separated to let him pass into the tunnel. They turned chillingly as he passed. All they needed was one threatening gesture, and the sharks would have food for a week. Milo and I are going to have words if he keeps turning off the air conditioner. I feel that. I feel that, Becca. They traveled through the tunnel for a few moments, and then they surfaced in a cave within a cave. To their astonishment, this cave was filled with air. "We can breathe down here," Alex said, and they all took off their shell masks. "The sea witch has to appeal to her human customers, too," Froggy said, and cleared his throat to deflate to normal. They climbed off the turtle and walked across the floor in single file. They all shivered terribly. Their bodies were so confused as to what temperature it was supposed to be. "Good turtle, stay," Connor said to the great sea turtle. The turtle squinted at him and then spat a stream of water in his face. "Sorry, didn't mean to patronize." "Oh, my lord," Red gasped, and tears filled her eyes. "Look up there." She pointed above them to one of the most gruesome sights the twins had ever seen. Dozens of mermaids were hung upside down from their tails across a dome-shaped cave ceiling. They were all weak and frail. Some breathed heavily while others didn't breathe at all. Some were just skeletons while others were close to becoming one. "What are they all doing up there?" Alex said, covering her mouth in horror. She wanted to save them all, but she knew it wouldn't be possible. Well, at least not today. "They're probably the sea witch's customers who couldn't fulfill their bargains," Froggy said. Jack was wide-eyed and white-faced, terrified about leaving Goldilocks behind to suffer the same conditions. She implored him to stick to their plan in spite of what they saw, even though they could all tell she was a little hesitant herself. The group traveled further into the cave. A whale's ribcage was positioned like a grand staircase leading up to another smaller cave. Jellyfish carcasses covered the entrance like a curtain. A large rocky platform at the base of the ribs acted like a small stage. The sea witch must have enjoyed looking down on her customers. "Are you ready for this?" Connor asked Goldilocks. She nodded, mustering up as much bravery as she could. Jack kissed her as though it would be the last time. This passionate display normally would have made the twins look away, but they all shared Jack's reluctance as he said goodbye to the woman he loved. "I love you," he whispered into her ear. "Likewise," Goldilocks said and winked at him. The team huddled together, reiterating their course of action. "All right, we are ruthless pirates." Sorry, I read that wrong. "All right, we are ruthless pirates who have kidnapped Queen Red," Froggy said and gestured to the twins. "I have been cursed to live out my days as a frog, and you have been cursed to remain adolescents." The twins nodded. "Aye, aye, Captain," Connor said and saluted him. "How fun! It's like a little play," Red said excitedly, clapping her hands. "And who will I be?" "You'll be hiding behind with me," Jack said. "We'll be back up in case they run into any problems." "Let's hide back here," Jack said and pulled the young queen behind a large rock. "It's always best to have backup." "Well, let's make it a little more believable," Froggy said, taking the rope off his shoulders and tying it loosely around Goldilocks. She legitimately looked like a prisoner now. "Shall we?" The four of them traveled up the rocky platform where Jack and Red hid behind a large rock. "Hello!" Froggy called up into the whale's ribs. "Sea witch, we've come to make a trade." Their anticipation made time go by incredibly slowly as they waited for the sea witch to appear, and just when they began wondering if she would ever show her face, they heard a horrible scraping noise from beyond the jellyfish curtain. A series of heavy footsteps. Several footsteps sounded through the cave, like a giant spider was approaching. The sea witch appeared through the jellyfish curtain. Her skin was a pale turquoise and scaled. Tall blades of seaweed grew straight out of her head like hair. She had a wide face and wide turquoise lips and round, insect-like black eyes. She wore a gown made of dark shell that had several mussels and sea polyps growing on it. She walked on 6 legs, and a pair of claws peeked out from under her gown as though she were part crustacean. She cuddled a plump cuttlefish in her arms, stroking it like it was a small, slimy pet. "Customers," the sea witch hissed like a snake voice. "Welcome, fellow vertebrates, to my underwater underworld." The twins were shivering from being so cold. The sea witch didn't notice that they were trembling from fear as well. "Get me out of here!" Goldilocks yelled, playing the part of a captivated Red. "It smells so nasty in here. I want to go home. I want to be back in my castle." And who might we have here?" the sea witch inquired, interested by the choice of words. "We've brought you a queen," Froggy stated, but Goldilocks interrupted him. "I'll introduce myself, thank you very much," she said, playing the part impressively well. "I am Queen Red Riding Hood of the Red Riding Hood Kingdom, and if you don't release me at once, I will have my soldiers swim down here and make ink out of you all." The sea witch's eyes widened. Not only was she buying it, she was intrigued. "A captured queen, you say?" she asked. "And you wish to trade her for what?" "We've come for your jewels," Froggy said. The sea witch let out a long, hissing laugh that sounded like it might have come from a dying cat. "You insult me with your offer," she said. "I'll make a deal with you. I will give you 1 of my pearls in exchange for the queen." She gently placed her hand over the pearl necklace and wrapped around her neck. Each pearl was black, and they were all different sizes and shades. "Which, please," Connor said. "We've got a living, breathing queen. We're the ones who should be requesting more from you." The sea witch eyed him. She didn't like being beaten at her own game. "You are just a large frog and 2 children. Tell me how you acquired a queen," she hissed. Connor laughed a little too hard. "We only appear as a frog and children because of how we've been cursed to spend eternity." He pointed to his sister. "This girl used to be a 6-foot man with the hairiest chest in all the kingdoms." Alex closed her eyes and assembled enough pretenses to go along with her brother's ridiculous story. "Grr, I miss me man body," she said in her best impression of a pirate voice. The sea witch looked down at them peculiarly. She had been hanging on every word they said until this point. "I was on my royal boat when they scooped me up and brought me here," Goldilocks cried, trying to authenticate their tale. "Do we have a trade, sea witch?" the frog called up to her. "Or shall I take the queen back to land and sell her to the ogres?" The sea witch thought on it. She was stroking the cuttlefish as she did. "Very well," she said. "I believe we have a deal." The sea witch climbed down the whale ribs towards them. She got a better glimpse at her black pearl necklace. They got a better glimpse at her black pearl necklace, and their hearts fluttered with the knowledge that it was exactly what they needed. But the twins' eyes fell to a familiar ring she wore on her turquoise finger. It was silver and had 2 diamonds, one blue and the other pink. Alex and Connor looked back and forth between the ring and each other. Was it just a coincidence, or had their worlds collided more than they realized? "That ring!" Alex gasped. "Where did you get it?" The sea witch glanced at her ring and then suspiciously down to Alex. "The same place I get all my jewelry," she hissed. "From people like you and creatures like them." She jerked her head towards the ceiling where the mermaids hung. "Do you want to make a trade or not?" "Yes," Froggy said, getting the twins back on subject. A convincing smile stretched across the sea witch's face. Conniving, just different. "Hand over the queen first, and I'll give you my jewels," she said. "Nice try," Connor said. "Give us the jewels and we'll hand you the queen." The tension between them grew. "As you wish," the sea witch said through a frown. She raised her arms and 2 crabs crawled out from under her dress. They crawled around her body, collecting all the jewelry she wore. The crabs climbed down the platform and stood in front of the twins. Froggy untied Goldilocks and pushed her back up the platform towards the sea witch. A long black and white striped sea snake slithered out of the sea witch's gown and towards her. "On the count of 3, we'll make the exchange," the sea witch said. 1, 2, 3. The twins took the jewels from the crab, and the snake wrapped around Goldilocks like a living rope. Alex and Connor pocketed the pearls and the other jewels. They were happy to trade. They were happy with the trade that they'd made, but they desperately didn't want to leave Goldilocks behind. Oh, Rosie, what happened? What happened? Well, I'm glad this is keeping you sane, but I'm sorry. This has been splendid, Froggy said with a nod and slowly backed away from the platform. Pleasure doing business with you. Not so fast, the sea witch hissed. The crabs jumped to the other side of Froggy and the twins blocking their way out. Oh, that's not good. Oh, I'm sorry about that. That's not good. Oh, is there anything you can do about that? There has to be recourse for that, right? Because that's dangerous. Not so fast, the sea witch hissed. The crabs jumped to the other side of Froggy and the twins blocking their way out. Did you think I would let you go without checking to make sure the trade was truthful? The sea witch reached into her gown and pulled a dried blowfish from inside it. She broke off one of the blowfish's needles and pricked Goldilocks' finger with it. She raised her cuttlefish towards the bleeding finger, and it stuck out its tongue from between its legs and tasted it. Ew! That is the grossest thing that I have ever seen. Hey, Tiffany, welcome back. Where did you go on vacation? That's awesome. Froggy and the twins were so anxious to hear, they could hear one another's heartbeats. They hadn't been planning on this. The cuttlefish turned bright blue. The sea witch frowned angrily and knocked Goldilocks to the ground with one of her claws. Liars! My cuttlefish has turned blue. It did not taste royal blood. She screamed. Uh-oh, Alex said. The crabs leaped onto the twins. The sea witch threw her cuttlefish and it hit Froggy, wrapping its legs around his face. All three frantically fought off the sea creatures attacking them, but it was no use. The crabs pinched and poked the twins, scratching them and drawing blood. Jack ran to the twins' side, and the two of them took with 2 blows of his axe, chopped both the crabs in half. Froggy mumbled from under the cuttlefish. Red ran to help Froggy. She took a good look at the cuttlefish, and then, not wanting to touch it, took off her shoe and began hitting the cuttlefish with it. Not helping, darling, Froggy mumbled under the cuttlefish's clap. She was mostly hitting him in the head. Across the lair, Goldilocks pulled one of her arms free from under the snake and grabbed its head. With one tug, she pulled the serpent off her body. The sea witch was livid over such an easy escape. She stretched her legs and grew twice in height. She lunged towards Goldilocks, and her claws were snapping loudly as gunshots went in both directions. Goldilocks, behind you! Jack screamed. Goldilocks swung the snake around, cracking it like a whip, and fought the sea witch off like a lion tamer. She jumped and tumbled onto the ground, barely avoiding pinches. The twins had to cover their eyes, fearing that they were about to witness the Snow Queen's prophecy come true. Red gave the cuttlefish one final smack with her shoe, and the tentacled creature fell onto the ground. Jack ran up to it and kicked it into the cave. The cuttlefish flew across the cave and hit the sea witch square in the face and wrapped itself tightly around her head. They could hear a loud, muffled scream as the sea witch struggled to free herself, a prisoner to her own pet. Let's get out of here, Jack yelled. Goldilocks jumped off the platform, somersaulting through the air and landing near the others. The group ran through the cave and back towards where they had left the great sea turtle. It's under warranty still. Okay, that's good. Oh yeah, no worries, Alyssa. No worries at all. They retrieved their scallop shells and strapped them over their faces. Then they jumped onto the turtle's back and grabbed hold of him. Go, turtle, go, Connor yelled. The great sea turtle might not have heard him, but he could tell by their panicked faces that they needed to get out of there fast. The turtle dove into the water and swam as fast as he could down the tunnel. He bolted past a group of sharks waiting at its entrance before they knew something was wrong. He passed by the anglerfish that they had seen on their way into the cave. Their fins began to move a little quicker as they floated into the water. They could tell something wasn't right, but they were just waiting on the others to intervene. The sea turtle swam through the canyon faster than they had ever seen a turtle swim before. For a moment, the twins felt relieved. They had narrowly escaped death once again, but then a high-pitched sound boomed through the ocean, causing a ripple to travel through the water. It sounded like a scream. The sea witch must have freed herself from the cuttlefish. Connor looked back at the canyon and had to blink twice. The sea witch's army of anglerfish and shark erupted from the canyon and headed towards them like a swarm of underwater wasps. It wasn't long before the terrifying swarm caught up to them. A few of the sharks zeroed in on the turtle. Jack was quick to punch one in the nose as it tried biting the turtle's flipper. Froggy kicked another one and crashed into yet another. It was like an underwater car chase. A moment later, the sea witch's creatures had gained speed, and the turtle was surrounded. They needed a miracle if they wanted to escape. Suddenly, a series of colorful blurs zoomed past the turtle, taking sharks and anglerfish with them. The twins looked at each other, making sure that they had seen it too. More colorful blurs jetted past them one by one, picking off the creatures trying to harm the turtle. The mermaids had come to the rescue. As if they were moving through a colorful meteor shower, the twins saw hundreds of mermaids shooting through the ocean and tackling harmful fish around them. Some mermaids carried spears and shields, others shared nets. The twins found themselves in the middle of a massive underwater battle. The turtle and his passengers had made it back to the bay. They could see the granny's belly floating on the surface above. The great sea turtle surfaced next to it, and Froggy quickly escorted everyone from the back of the turtle onto the deck of the ship. "Thank you," Alex said to the giant turtle, and it dipped its head slightly to her and disappeared again beneath the water. Alex and Connor ran down towards the lower deck. "Where's the fire?" Harp asked them, but they ignored her. Alex and Connor retrieved the Wand of Wonderment from underneath Goldilocks' cot. They put it on the floor and dumped out all the Sea Witch's jewels beside it. The black pearls instantly collided with the base of the scepter, creating its handle. "It's working! We did it!" Connor said, but his sister didn't join him in the celebration. "Alex, what's wrong?" Alex was staring down at the floor at a piece of jewelry that hadn't connected itself to the wand. She picked up the ring with its pink and blue diamonds on it that they had seen the Sea Witch wearing. "It's the ring," she said. "It's the ring Bob got Mom." "How do you know it's the same ring and not a similar one?" Connor asked. "I'm a 13-year-old girl. I know a ring when I see one," Alex exclaimed. "Does this mean that Bob is in the land of stories?" Connor asked. A thunderous set of footsteps flew down the steps from the upper deck. It was Jack. "Hey, you two," Jack said. We could use a hand up there." The twins put the wand away and joined the others on the upper deck. Just when they thought they were safe, the anglerfish were jumping out of the water and landing on the ship. They snapped their massive jaws at their ankles. The twins joined Red in kicking the hideous fish overboard. Goldilocks picked up her sword and began a gruesome game of baseball with the flying fish coming up from the water. Jack and Froggy tried to start up the ship, releasing the sails and firing up the flames as far as they could. "We've got to get away from the water as quickly as possible," Jack yelled. The granny rose higher and higher above the bay. "We're getting away!" Red cheered, still kicking unwelcome fish off the deck. The ship was gaining height and a steady speed. Just when they could finally take a sigh of relief, an anglerfish, Red, and the twins had missed on the deck, flopped onto the high air and tore through the granny's balloon. The sails... Oh, my God. The granny's balloon and sails with its huge teeth. The ship began to descend out of the sky, spinning out of control. The shredded sails above them acted more as a floppy parachute than a balloon. They couldn't tell where they were falling. It wasn't back into the bay, but towards land somewhere in the distance. Everyone was screaming and grabbing onto anything and anyone they could to prevent themselves from being flung off the ship. The twins found each other's hands in the middle of the chaos, and they held on to one another, convinced these would be their last moments alive. With a giant thud, the granny crashed to the ground. Everything was hazy from then on. They could hear Claudius barking. They could hear the harp yelling from below. They heard Red and Froggy moaning. They saw Jack and Goldilocks trying to stand. They looked out at the land around them and saw a gigantic boulder surrounding the horizon. The two figures were moving towards them, one small and one stout, the other tall, one small and stout, the other tall and gangly. They both had large ears and ugly faces, and they leaned towards the twins, inspecting them. "Well, well, well," said a gruff voice. "What do we have here?" The twins had one horrifying realization before passing out completely. They had crashed into troll and goblin territory. We all know what that means, huh? We went to troll and goblin territory in the last book. Good Lord. Whew. That's quite an ending. Why does it keep ending on cliffhangers like that? Am I right? All right. Well, that is that. Later today, I'm going to go down. I have a thing to make with you guys later today. So I will be back on later to make a kit thing. But we're going to go eat breakfast, and because you stopped reading. Well, yeah, but I mean the chapter. All right. I'll see you guys later. Mwah! Bye.